Okay, everyone, hello. Welcome to today's HighRoad U webinar. I am Suzanne Carowin. I am the Chief Marketing Officer here at HighRoad Solution, and I am delighted to talk about a really kind of interesting toolkit today, and hopefully bring up some new points about blogging. We could go on and on and on with this, and we have some great additional tools that we'll post onto our landing page after this webinar. But we want to get to talking about this month's toolkit. So this month, we have focused in on blogging maturity. And what's interesting is that in our work, we see that most organizations have had a blog at some point. And what's interesting is I think everyone glommed on to having a blog kind of out when they came out, and which has been quite a few years now. You know, we're talking 10 plus years on that one, probably more like 15. And people jumped on the blog bandwagon at the time, and then I think things have kind of petered off, and then they haven't used it as much. But what's interesting is that there's resurgence now about the need for blogging, primarily because of its lead generating capabilities. So as you hear more and more about marketing automation and growth and lead scoring and how can we get new people, and you have more corporate people that have come from the corporate market coming into the association market, you're seeing that blogging is just a standard way, a part of your arsenal that you would absolutely use as a tool to help you be able to be a better you. In this case, your association brand. So today we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to look at blogs from a very high level, very quick. It's not going to be long on the PowerPoint slides. I have some specific comments that I want to make about blogging in the association world and things that we have found and learned, and have you guys benefit from our experience in the work we've been doing with our clientele. And then the third piece of, obviously, we're going to go to the tool and walk you through the tool and give some tips and tricks there and talk about how you can utilize this tool yourself to use this to see how you're doing and kind of benchmark yourself. And so, you know, always open to feedback and commentary. And this happens to be one of my, I love this world because I've had a past as an information architect, and that information kind of piece of it, along with the data that you get out of it, is just like, what could be better than the blogging piece? Plus, all the tools are so easy to use that the marketing communications program types of people, there's no real ramp up time to learn them. So you can get right in and be able to leverage technology for what it's really great for, with the focus primarily being on the content, which is great. So there's not someone saying you can't do it. Here's a million reasons why you can't do it. So we're going to get into that as first start talking about just making sure we're on the same page about blogs and actually what they are. So, you know, a blog at the end of the day, we've been taught, you know, that it's something different, I think, many a time than a website, right? So we tend to think of like our website and blog and social media and all these things as an email is very distinct. Well, the world of digital marketing, a digital marketer kind of thinks of all these things and understands how they're all interconnected and why I'd use one channel versus the other, and how I'm going to interlace the tools to get the biggest kind of bang for my buck in terms of being able to reach my target audience and really give them kind of comprehensive care in a way that I can study them as much as possible, but deliver content in a way that works for them, works for our organization, etc. So a blog came from that combination of the word web log, blog. So web somehow got dropped out of the equation and it became blog, and then somehow blogs get relegated to like some other group, like the PR group or just the advocacy group. And they haven't been, at least from what we've seen, they haven't proliferated across the organization where people are like, hold on a second, why aren't we doing this? And what's happened is that email has absolutely dominated the way that every organization thinks. They think through an email-centric mindset, email first. And actually, that's something that we work a lot on with our with our clients to kind of break that. That's a little bit of archaic thinking. So the way that most organizations think is they think, I send email to drive people to our website. And that's the triangular kind of way that they think. And they're not thinking, hey, you know what, it should start with the website, and how do we have many different vehicles to drive people there. And what's nice about that is that, again, email is already being sent out to a group of people you already know. Okay, it's already a very exclusive channel, right? It's not, but blogs are out there and open to the world. Like anyone could find your blog unless you password protect it, just like your website, right? So why people tend to use blogs is another way, since it is a website, it's another way to get noticed, right? We're going to use blogs to attract new people. So if you're an association out there, and one of the bullet points on your list of things to do for this year and into next year is to grow. Maybe you need to go find new target markets. You need to grow millennials. We hear that 6 times a day. We need to go get new members. Well, how can I attract new members and get them to come to my site and kind of do a taste test and get to know me and get to understand what we're about and have some personality? You know what would be a great way to do that? Blogs, right? So you're seeing blogs really reemerge as a key component to my digital growth strategy or my digital portfolio, because it is a great low-cost way to drive traffic to your website. As a matter of fact, many blogs are still either free or they're part of your other marketing automation package and it's coming with it. Could be part of your content management system, and that also just comes bundled. But there's a variety of ways to get to a blog, but there's some really key things about what blogs can do for you. So blogs, like your website, are open to being indexed by search engines, right? So Bing comes along, Google comes along, and if you think about it, most organizations, where the pitfall is in the email-centric thinking is that emails are going out to people I already know and driving people back to my website, hopefully. So I have this continuous loop, but it's a closed loop and it's only of the same people. So it would be great if people just woke up in the morning and said, hi, I want to go learn about your particular association. So let's say that, but often that's not usually how it happens. Maybe you have enough brand recognition that people just do that and they type it directly into the URL, or they type it directly into a search engine and find you. But one of the things most people do is they either type in some long tail string of keywords to find you through a search engine, okay, which hopefully we need you then to pop up, or they see you through banner ads or through social media. And so banner ads and social media can be a great combination to point people back to your blog. And blogs can be a very low barrier to entry to start to learn about your organization. So it's a great way to drive people back to your website, and you're driving, in this case, your blog, and help them to get to know you. And the biggest thing that we can do with the blog is that the blog has 2 components. And I think we often forget this piece, but we utilize it all the time in our marketing automation implementations and strategy work that we do, which is that a blog has kind of double bonus. It has the blog portion, or the website, that has the, I come to the blog, I see the posts, I can see the archives, as well as almost all blogs, good blogs, have an email subscription piece that goes with it. So I can actually say, hey, I saw you on social media, you posted something really interesting, it piqued my interest. I'm going to go ahead and click on that link. I'm going to come back to a blog. I'm like, oh, look, here's all of this information about a topic that I'm obviously of interest in because I clicked on the link from social or from a banner ad. And now what can I do if I really like the content that I just consumed on your blog? Well, I can just go ahead and sign up for a newsletter subscription. I can sign up for the subscription to the blog and continue to get good information without paying anything, right? So I'm doing kind of a try before I buy your membership or your event registration, etc. So this is a classic content marketing mechanism to be able to allow people to come in, and I'm doing a value exchange. I'm giving away great content for you to provide to me your email address so I can, excuse me, start to cultivate you on a more one-to-one basis, which is the point of email, right? This idea of blast email is, that's abhorrent to digital marketers and especially email marketing purists, because that's not the purpose of email. Email is supposed to be a very intimate communication, one-to-one, between a brand and this end recipient. So what blogs do is help us to kind of cast out a wide fishing net, if you will, and say, hi, look at all these kinds of interesting types of, and what's nice about blogs is you can have video in there because it's a web-based kind of piece. Can't have that in email. I can have photos. I can have infographics. I can have all sorts of content in there, and I can be able to use that, get indexed, use social media to point to it, and bring people kind of into me. Okay, and so what's great with that is then again I can get them to subscribe and start to cultivate them, and then start to do lead generation and turn those into leads and score them and send them more information. And I'm researching now based on what they're actually clicking on and reading. I've got all sorts of data so I can understand, are these the people that I want? Is this part of who I'm targeting? And if they're not, who are these people? And also, when's the appropriate time to ask them to register, to buy, to engage in a certification class? When is that right time to do it? So blogs help us with all of those kinds of pieces. And I often think that they don't get enough credit. They're kind of relegated to like, oh, that's like a newfangled news thing. And it's not even new. I mean, we're talking 15 years plus, okay? So top reasons other companies just out there in the world that you'll read about why people decide to blog, or I'm going to say why businesses decide to blog. This isn't about personal thought leadership. This is about business. So businesses decide to blog because it's a great way to do thought leadership. Now, that's nothing new for associations. You've been doing that from the get-go. I think what is nice about it is another way to help your organic search listings, and then to be able to come higher up on those pieces, and hopefully again to use it as a lead generator, get more people subscribed to you so you can spread the word. So much of the association content is often, again, behind the members only wall or behind something they have to log in, and there's been this kind of long-term fear of giving away this kind of value-based content. But that's kind of turning in our market. People are starting to say, hey, you know what? We have to give some to get some, so we're going to go ahead and give pieces away. And again, a blog can be a great way to do kind of little snippets. Like maybe you want to sell a research paper that you're doing. You might want to give away just the summary, right? And you can do that from a blog format. Those types of things allow you to get more out of it without giving away everything, but getting more for a market now that has a very skeptical consumer who doesn't want to plunk down $1,500 just because you said, you know, you're the American Association of XYZ. You know, they want to have some sort of proof before they plunk down that money. Blogs can be a great way to be able to handle that type of thought leadership while being able to generate leads and revenue. Okay, so we talked about a couple of those. So that's what the typical, you know, if I looked at anything, say top reasons businesses should blog, you're going to see these all the time. Okay, so now I want to switch gears and I want to talk, and I've mentioned a couple things, but I want to make some other more directed comments on blogging for associations and why it's not a fad. I mean, many organizations have been doing this from the get-go and have kept it up religiously and are, you know, always done a lot with it. What we're seeing from our perspective is actually an increase in the number and types of blogs that associations are using. So there's a mind-blowing idea. It used to be that, you know, there could only be one corporate blog and it was only used for this one particular purpose, like for advocacy, or only, you know, we only put information up there that was about news. Well, now people are saying, you know, this is such a great and easy to use tool and allows us to get more people involved. Why not have multiple blogs, right? Why not use and have a blog for specific purposes. And that's exactly what we're saying. So a couple comments for why blogging we find is especially helpful for associations is that it's easier to use than email. And I don't know if that's psychological. I don't know if that's actually just the user interfaces are just easier, or the fact that it's just more streamlined, or the people that are oftentimes the content writers, the way that we've been trained to think and work has been through tools that look a lot more like blogging. So the closer you get a software product that looks like I'm just going to write in it, and it looks like the normal things we write in Google Docs or PowerPoint or Word documents, etc., the easier it is for us to be able to do this effectively. It's also great because I am focused now on just writing content for a website, I can get rid of a lot of the burden of email. Okay, and email is still an art and a science. It's something where if I'm going to put in email, I have to cut and copy in pieces into an email template. I have to test it, and I have to pull the list, and then I have to say, okay, deal with opt-outs, and et cetera, et cetera. But for blogging to take content and get it into a blogging tool and out to the web, right, none of that involves email. And like I said, you can have more rich media than you can in email, especially like video. Okay, so it's easier than email in a lot of ways. That I'm talking about from a staff perspective. Okay, and just it allows people to get more people involved. So I could now scale out and not just have my staff, or get my staff who are very skittish about technology, let's say, or who would never say they would never be the people to actually, you know, they would say, oh, well, we use email, but I'm not the email practitioner, and someone else. It allows you to free up the whole pipeline and not have bottlenecks, because you can just get them on and they're just writing. You're like, hey, just go ahead and write it in there. So you can really scale it out quite well for volunteers, non-technical staff, especially it overcomes a lot of technical gaps that are out there from a generational perspective, or just, I don't know, fear of technology, or not, oh, I don't do that, I'm not technical. Blogging allows, it's a really easy entry point for those people who have felt this way. And especially, there seems to be a combination, right? A lot of times our volunteers who have the most subject matter expertise, or maybe some of our top seasoned staff, they can write wonderfully, but it's hard to get the content out of them, and let's say all the way down through to the website or email, etc. And certainly to ask them to just use the tool directly and not go through a workflow internally would be something that would be dismissed, right? So blogging, many times you can see, it allows top, seasoned executives, seasoned subject matter experts, a really great way to get back involved in digital, and more so get out that knowledge, right? Which is such the value of membership in many a case. So really allows you to scale. Another couple comments on why to use blogging in associations is that here's another one. From a revenue generating perspective, it actually gets you more bang for your buck. So remember I said you've got the blog itself. So I've got kind of the home page of the blog, and then I click on a story and I go to the internal part and I can see that, as well as there is that email component. But the difference in email with a blog is that the blog itself puts the email together and sends it. So I am no longer having to manually put together email and test it and send it. That's just all done for me automatically, right? So somebody can say, hey, I want a blog subscription. I want to receive a summary daily, weekly, monthly, instant, etc. And the blog just takes care of it for me. So myself on staff at an association as a marketing communications program person, maybe I'm a staff of one, maybe I'm the executive director and I'm the team. I don't have to worry about that email distribution piece, which is a huge plus, especially I think for a small staff organization, or again, kind of a cash-strapped organization. It allows you to really do content collection and distribution and measurement quite easily. So back to the piece on what's even better than that, than saving time in terms of efficiency. That's great and all, but what's better than that is creating new revenue. So what's nice about blogs is that we have that homepage, we have that, I click on a link and I see the interior and the email comes out, okay, that is being sent. That just gave me 1, 2, 3 new places for property, if you will, digital property, where I can put banner ads, I could put in logos for my partners, my sponsors, I could sell off, and I could measure really effectively because it's all digital, and be able to do more exposure for my value-added kind of partners in this case. So whether it's a, whether it's a sponsor or an exhibitor or, it's just an advertiser, blogs give you all sorts of additional ways to put in banner ads to promote and cross-promote maybe your own programs as well. So either purchase banner ads or those of yourself that you're trying to promote, okay? So that's fantastic. And a lot of the more sophisticated blogs in, let's say, marketing automation platforms, they can actually dynamically change the banner ad that's being served up or the content based on the recipient that's going to receive it. Okay, now we're getting even better and better and better. Not just efficiency, but value add and the ability to generate revenue. So I say in particular in that regard, what we found at HighRoad is that we've had great success in adding blogging for specifically event marketing. So it can be a great tool for having a blog that's just for your exhibitors, right? So they subscribe, or you can auto-subscribe all of your exhibitors who exhibited last year, and you can just start, now your staff is just posting to the blog. You can put a lot more in there than you could in email because you've got a lot more kind of runway and real estate to use. And then they're making sure that they're just getting all of the information that you need about the exhibition, in the coming year. And you could do that almost year round. That's something that's easy to do. So event marketing makes tons of sense for exhibitor kinds of exhibitions, I should say, for big conferences, for topic specialties of that nature, like it's a carve-out group that is going to meet at the annual meeting. And so now you're going to have kind of this specific topic of content feed that's going with it. So event marketing in particular, I think, is an area where most people haven't thought, oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense for our blog. But if you think about it, it does, because you've got all sorts of exhibitors and sponsors and advertisers that are funding the event, and that now you can provide a value add to them, maybe get it going, but also, long-term have more revenue. So I think that's a really critical part for where blogging can make a big difference. And also I think for anything involving certifications and research, right? So those types of things where they might not need you every day, but the day that they need you, you want to be top of mind. So getting that kind of group of people subscribe to a blog that's coming out consistently, it doesn't have to be every day, but maybe once a month, is a great way that you can do that. Another piece of it is that most organizations will auto-subscribe their members into a blog because they've been given permission to communicate together. So it's another area where I have an opportunity to communicate with them. It gives me a broader array of ways that I'm connecting with them in email, etc. That it could lessen my opportunity for them to opt out totally, right? So it's another kind of avenue to get people back and keep them so that they don't walk away from you entirely. So just a couple ideas there. All right, so let's change gears. Let me get out of that and let me go over to the actual tool. Here we go. So here's our toolkit of the month on assessing how we're doing. And again, as all of our tools do, they give you the instructions to go through it, but let's just go through and talk about the points here. Because what I like about this tool, excuse me, is that it is interactive, and it's going to give me, at the end of the day, a really nice scorecard here on the scorecard tab. So a couple of comments, and let me scroll up. So a couple of comments here is, again, you can change this yourself also. So this is just a boilerplate template, but you can go ahead and customize this, because this is all just Excel, and you can kind of decide how you want to put your different criteria here for your categories and what would, for you, be something indicative of the level of maturity for this particular success factor. Okay, so just a note for that. So you can take that and make it a tool and use it to something that will will work quite well for your organization, which is, we do this fairly regularly. And again, I think I could go even further, say you can use this tool, and instead of being blogging, you could change it to ebooks or landing pages or website, anything. I think with content, you could really use the same framework. I think it'll work quite well. So key success factors is running down here on the left-hand side. And what I like about this is that it is breaking it out in a couple of different categories. So it's breaking it out by our orientation, our leadership piece of it, our organizational alignment, the blog itself. And what I really, and a couple other pieces, what I really like about that is you notice it didn't just jump to the tool. As a matter of fact, we scroll down, technology is way down the list, right? Way down the list. So what's great about that is that it's strategy first. And we want to, you know, as we move further and further into digital marketing and the use of kind of these other tools and techniques, you'll realize very quickly the strategy, the theory is the thing that dominates. And the tools, there's so many tools out there, the tools are secondary, right? A tool is no longer going to make or break an organization and make them successful. It's the application of the tool. It's the strategy behind the tool, and how, and really who's going to be able to do the most as an organization in this kind of digital first world is the one that understands how best to take all the data that's gathered, aggregate it, and actually utilize it, right? Use it for planning. So we hear over and over, you know, our goal this year for our association is to become data-driven. Our goal for our association this year is to gain greater member insight. In top 2 goals, I see it on everything that we do. So the key there is going to be, how can I mass that data, and how can I make sense of it and understand what's it telling us about this market that we're serving, okay? And that's kind of the key, really, of content marketing, is using content to be able to study human behavior and understand where people need help, what they're looking for, where the gaps are, and then we as the association, how can we provide the products, the programs, and services to fill those gaps, right? So the answers out there about what should we do next are going to be really, they're there at we can find out ourselves. You know, the tools help us to gather the data, but we have to be able to look at that strategy. So I like that about blogging, about this piece, that they start with the orientation of it. So a couple key comments. So under our strategy thing, the way this is looking is what they're telling you is here for each one of these criteria to say, okay, are you doing this? It's asking you, what level are you here, right, for these pieces. So it's saying level 1, you give yourself a score in this big block here of a 1 if you have no defined blogging strategy established, right? So it's looking to say this is the lowest level of maturity, and then 4 is the highest, and that's for each of these success factor categories. So if you have no defined blogging strategy established and you have none of this done, you're going to go with a 1. Okay, and you're just going to come over here and fill it in the box. And if you notice, if I click on the cell, I get the little drop down and I can change my number. Okay, and my color too. So I can go through here and I can read each one of these and I can say, okay, well, where am I for strategy? Do I have a strategy established? Nobody said it had to be written down, by the way. I've had a couple of clients ask me that. There's no points off if somebody's got the master plan up here, right? And they're doing this, then, you know, no one said it had to be, it probably should be, but it might be what we call OTL. It might be on the list to get done and put on paper. So a couple of kind of things, you know, here about, you know, how well is the asking the strategy understood, well-defined, integrated, and rolled out. Okay, that's probably where you're going to have to do some documentation. So you might have to rate yourself a little bit lower on that, but, you know, like I said, you can see how you rate on that one. Next category is processes, you know, kind of the same idea. You've got no processes in place. It's kind of a free-for-all all the way through. You know, you've got a defined blogging strategy. All the pieces are tracked and supported, etc. Okay. The next kind of big category is leadership, and I love, love, love this, especially for associations, because we all know that nothing is going to happen unless you get the entire team buying in. And you know what happens? And when things happen fast in associations, when the senior management has buy-in, and it's their directive. So one of the key pieces there, again, if you're trying to sell it up the chain, or most executives are not walking around the association saying, like, you know, are we using our blog strategically, and are we able to do this? You know, it's not even a report that you provide in terms of metrics, right? It tends to be kind of down in the weeds. But what they would buy into is that they understood at the end of the day the lead generating capabilities and the revenue generating capabilities. They would probably say, sign me up, right? So if we looked at the investment versus the return, executives say, okay, you've got my attention. So I like that they've given us these four levels of maturity here, so we can kind of understand, do we understand fundamentally what blogging is? Not from a tools, technique, fad, sounds like something my, you know, college daughter does or something like that. It sounds like a little blogger, people running the earth. We hear that all the time. It's not that. It's, do you understand how this fits into the content strategy and how it's a core capability, again, for being able to generate revenue, leads, etc. Especially important for our executives, because they're the ones with the vision. They're the ones who have something to say, and they have the positioning, and they have the power and the influence to be able to take their thoughts, and instead of being a one-to-one, I come and I speak one-to-one, or I go talk to a small group, I can now institutionalize that commentary and get it out there to everyone, as well as be able to keep a copy so we can use it and repurpose it. Right? So the objective of getting all of that wonderful institutionalized knowledge and the direction of what we're trying to achieve as an association, and get senior management to commit to getting that into a blog, is something that could be a huge advantage for your association. Right? You can send out a gazillion emails saying, come to our show, come to our show, come to our show. It might make a huge difference if you have the commitment of your executive director or CEO or VP who's continuously blogging about the benefits of coming to the show, and kind of what are the core hot topics that are going on in the industry, and how you need to be there to participate. Right? Huge difference. One is kind of just noise and talking. One is actually saying, hey, this is really value-added content. So, and I think oftentimes our top volunteers, our top subject matter experts as members, etc., are not often tapped enough to provide that that information, and say, well, we don't have anything to say. Not the case. They're the ones who have a ton to say, and that is really good, rich content that people want to read, versus lightweight little email content snippets, and really what you're saying is buy, right? Register, 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 join, 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 renew, renew, renew. Okay, and I think that's another piece, is that, remember, we talk about our today's consumer all the time, with the less than 4-second attention span, and the very skeptical consumer, and the one that is price sensitive and does all their browsing and they're doing their shopping decision making online. It's very hard to fool them. They know content when they see it. They know the difference between what's really shallow and what's like really good content that they can sink their teeth into. And as a member deciding, should I renew? Is this worth my money? Or a prospective member saying, is this worth it? Today's organization, has to go heavy on the leadership side, right? It's very easy nowadays to separate the kind of the shallow from the in-depth kind of piece, where who's authentic and who's not. So our senior management has a huge amount that we can be able to leverage. Okay, so same idea. I would just go ahead and score myself on that, and again, just change my little box here for whatever the one I'm looking at, and you can see I'm changing as we go. So a couple other categories they put in here. We've got our commitment to resource allocations, right? And this is a nice one, because I like number one. Has anybody given us the right resources or budgets to actually do this effectively, right? And as we know, in our 2016 State of Digital Marketing and Association research report that we run every year, we can see that our budgets, when it comes to digital, our digital budgets are still lagging behind what you would see in the corporate market. They're still heavily dominated by email marketing and print marketing. And if you go way down the chain, you can see there's other categories in there for things like digital advertising and whatnot. But for the most part, the association industry has not kind of updated their digital marketing budget and resources that they're putting into digital marketing. Now, I will say that is changing as we speak, but it's slow. For many organizations, it's slow. They just don't, they've never even thought of it. They don't know it's a possibility. They're like, I didn't know there was more to website and email, you know, and we use free social media tools. So that part's still coming. So if you're in that boat, you're not alone. But what you can see is that this is a tool, then you can say, look, an organization, a brand that has a high level of maturity here would have these things in place. And you can use this tool as some talking points to say, you know what, here's where we are. Okay, let's look at us compared to one of our, you know, other association competitors, or a for-profit maybe competitor who is taking away some of, let's say, your certification class revenue. You can really kind of look at this and say, look what they're doing, look what we're doing, right? And that's a good way to help get buy-in and understand, you know, where you're probably maybe leaving yourself vulnerable and exposed. So you can say, look, you know, if I just looked at all of the fours, say this is what a profile of an organization that has, you know, that's reached maturity, this is the facets that we would see, all right? This is a key one. If we were mature in this kind of area, we would be able to prepare to utilize blogging for sales and revenue impact. So if I wanted to do a presentation to a senior group of my, you know, colleagues, etc., and talk about why we need to get on board, I would probably start with this one right here, right? Because you're telling me that we need new membership, right? We need membership growth. You're telling me we need more event attendees. You're telling me we need to up our, you know, research report revenue. Okay, here's what we're lacking in order to get that done. Okay, sending a bunch of more emails to try to hammer people with buy now, buy now, buy now, it's not working anymore. And here's why, right? We talked about it, our consumer, etc. But look, here is what is working for other organizations. They are doing these things to affect sales and revenue impact, and we're not. So you can kind of benchmark and say, you know, here's where the organizations that are doing this, and here's where we are. And that's another good way to frame it up to executives in particular. Okay, so moving on. So the next category, organizational knowledge of demand generation, another really good one, particularly for associations, because this is now understanding why do we blog, right? And not from like a content perspective, but from a lead generation standpoint. Are we understanding that other organizations are actually using blogging to develop leads, and you can put it any way you want, prospective advertisers, prospective exhibitors, prospective members, prospective registrants, right? Are we understanding, especially again on the event marketing side, because you collect so much content, all the images and videos and podcasts you can produce out of one event and start to kind of use it in drip marketing through blogs. Great way to get people engaged and say, hey, I want to check out this event in person, right, or virtually, etc. next year. So it's something we want to think about. And again, I would go back to, let's look at number 4. So who's doing it right? So if we're mature, we're understanding that we're going to use blogging to fuel the sales cycle and again, do what? Impact revenue. Okay, so this number 4 is sure to get some executives in your association, or you as an executive, if you're on the call, saying, huh, you know what? I hadn't thought of blogging in this way. I thought it was just this little extra activity that somebody was asking me to do, that it's, again, OTL, it's on the list, can't get there, right? But if we really think about it and we say, hey, you know what? This is a great way for people to get to know us and understand us and get more value added out of it. And if the blog is good, you know, actually paying into the system, if you will, being a paid member, being a paid registrant, you're basically setting the standard for if you think that's good, come on in, be a member, be an exhibitor, be a registrant, and we'll even provide even additional good value. And if there's one thing that associations should feel so confident about, I would say as a whole, is that you've got good content, is that your content is absolutely worth the cost of admission. So just being able to use blogging to kind of get it out there at a little bit of a time to give people a taste so that they want to come in and commit the money to do it is, I think, a really good way to think about that. And I think just from my own consulting experience, most organizations just haven't been thinking about it in that way. Probably if it had another name, honestly, other than blog, they'd be all over it. I don't know. But I just think it's how blogging came into the association industry, and it kind of came in through the technology side, the webmaster side and things. And I just think it just, people said, oh, we already have email and we don't need it. We already have a website, it's extra. So last kind of piece on this one is internal communications. And again, I think this is again, if we look at maturity, the organization is communicating internally to drive blog posts, ideas back to the team, okay? This one, I think associations don't have, I don't usually see a real issue with this one. Most associations have very well-defined pathways for, again, getting information back to, instead of just take a blog and put email team, back to the email team. So you can really follow the same pathways and see in that way, probably the processes are done. Or hopefully, blogging's so easy, people can just do it directly and there won't be a large, scale, again, bottleneck. So that's not something, that's usually something you see more in the corporates than associations. Usually associations, internal communications, lots of time is spent, as you guys know, in meetings and being able to get everyone on the same page. So internal communications, not usually a factor. Now, what is a factor, though, as we move into the next thing, is alignment. So internal communications are rampant, but typically organizational alignment, that's when we get into kind of a little bit of an issue, and we have issues with departmental alignment, right? So we can see here from 1 to 4, a low level would be marketing and sales operate as silos, and customer care is a reactive entity. Okay. Now, obviously, that's kind of from a corporate speak. So if we take it to the association side, you can just say marketing and take out sales and put in membership, put in research, put in certification, marketing and events, marketing and conventions, right? All of these things become kind of silos, and this could be membership. And we have kind of departmental breakdown. Where things are highly aligned, if you're mature, is that we understand that this is all a part of the one goal we have, right, called revenue. And, in association terms, whether that is growth revenue or just revenue for the year, and you just want to do just a pure, break-even piece, etc. But everybody wants non-dues revenue, so let's just call it revenue. So the revenue piece that we're looking at effective blogging is a continuous feedback cycle, because if people are calling into let's say membership relations, or if you have you actually have you call it customer support because you're selling products or whatnot, they're calling in for that information over and over. That customer care team is hearing the same questions again and again. So if you hear the same questions over and over, it would make a lot of sense to have somebody actually document the answer to it, or the response, the FAQs, right, of that, get it out into the blog and get it out to people so they can self-serve, they can look it up. Again, the customer care person, even if it's there, and they call in, they say, hey, hold on, I've got the perfect article for you. They send you the link, right, and they have it, and it's one additional way to create a seamless experience. So that's something that, that's really, if everybody understanding, again, blogging is not just push out there, it's to get information in and be able to get into a positive feedback loop with my actual, whatever constituency I'm trying to have a dialogue with, all right? After all that, we finally get to the blogging piece, okay? So after we get all that, because we want to make sure, again, we've got first things first. We're not going to have a successful kind of endeavor unless we have these kinds of support mechanisms in place, and we don't have people being obstructionists to try to move forward. And again, if you remember that the number 4 of maturity was that everybody's aligned around revenue. And you can't be aligned around revenue. I guess you can be, but it's not going to be sustainable if you're not organized around the users that you serve, okay? So now we're finally into blogging. And the categories we have here on blogging is somewhat the same as we had before of strategy and processes. Now we have strategy and programs and activities. And we'll see here, if we're looking at strategy, we're looking at number one here, we're focused on paid search or PPD advertising, as well as traditional trade show. No formal content, email, or social campaigning strategy exists. So I comment specifically on to all of the organizations that we all in our industry, is that for most of them, I would say we're going to have to give ourselves a 0.5 here. So you get half a point, because I would say that the majority of associations, they do have, for sure, some sort of formal, and again, email should be highlighted in red. Certainly, associations know how to use email, absolutely. And certainly, most associations are using social media in some way. Some very effectively. But certainly this is not the problem. So we've got this one. So let's give ourselves a half a point there. The half a point we take off is probably this first line here, is that we're using paid search or PPD advertising and traditional trade show marketing. May we give ourselves, again, another quarter point for traditional trade show marketing. We're all masters of that one. But most of us, again, if you look at our 2016 State of Digital Marketing and Associations report, paid search and understanding, let's say, how to pay into LinkedIn and really get great results, et cetera, is very low on the list for most organizations. Not all, but most. So again, it's something that because we've had a very stable base of members or customers that we can continue to call our revenue from. The shift that's happened is that base that we've been selling into is either changing or shifting or diminishing because of what have you, generational shifts, people are leaving the workforce, those types of things that are happening, and that's the piece that's changing. So our stable base, if I had to look at it in my recurring revenue, my managed recurring revenue, my MRR, right, of what I'm looking at is now collapsing. It's shrinking, okay? So now organizations are lifting their head up and saying, I need more people. We need new people to sell to make members of, et cetera. Okay, what do we need to do? We got to go get new people. And now we're in an age of digital where what's happened? We've got all these laws around email and how we utilize email. So we can't just go buy lists. We have to do something in a different way. And that's why you see number one, because in a corporate world, you would be doing paid search and PPD advertising right off the bat. Okay, that would be like a standard, like day one. Okay, I need to have a line item for Google AdWords, etc. For a lot of organizations, they're now coming into that world where this is important. Right? And they're like, ooh, I don't even know how to, where to start with that. So we're doing a lot with that piece at HighRoad. We're showing a lot of organizations how to do that effectively. And I think I would say that most organizations are delighted that, that how much bang for your buck you can get by utilizing, especially LinkedIn. LinkedIn is just a classic for associations of how to get the word out to new people in your target market. Okay, so if I had the strategy in place then, and I was a 4, I would really be going to the point where I'm already using really personalized and localized content across my different channels, my different blogs. My website would dynamically change based on who's actually reading each page of the content. My emails would be changing, right? I would utilize social media in a far more personalized way, etc. And I would really understand, here's my little pockets of like-minded people, and I already have content prepared to make them feel like I really know them, and that it's specifically for what they're interested in, right? We've handled the what's in it for me factor that they're going to have. Okay, so a lot of us are getting, now by the way, on this side, not usually on the blogging side, but many organizations are getting here to number 4 on the email side, because they've done email for so long and they're ready to graduate to the next level, and they're getting into really, big hyper-personalized kind of email experiences. But personalization, I will say, is a very it's not it's as pervasive, of course, as I'd like to see it, but it is not. I've heard many organizations have a personalization initiative that they're either undertaking and started in 2016 or that it's on the docket for 2017. Usually a multi-year initiative, but something that organizations are saying we're going to commit the time, resources, personnel, et cetera, into it, get the expert help, you know, bring in consultants, et cetera, to help us get to the next level of personalization, right? So I will say that's just a comment about our market. Okay, so back to the blogging and programs and activities, kind of along the same way. A level 1 would be that we're kind of doing the basic stuff, you know, website pages, limited content targeting, and if we go all the way up to 4, that we really have a full-scale blogging program that, again, is back to the really understanding our segments and matching up content topics, content tone, content positioning with the actual, you know, what you would say in a digital world, the buyer's journey or the persona that you're trying to target, right? So for this type of whatever company, this type of membership category, we've already pre-planned and have content readily available to handle and to serve the needs and interest areas of that particular segment. All right, so probably you're somewhere along in here. You're probably in a 2 or 3 kind of piece, because again, we cannot devalue that associations have tons and tons, again, of great content, video, et cetera, et cetera. It's just typically associations have it. Again, they have tons of images that they took at all these conferences. It's getting it out back to their individual market or out to the world to attract, that usually there's some work to be done. All right. So as we come along, we finally get down to technology. Like I said, we don't put that one first. We're doing our strategy first. And here's when we finally get to talking about tools and platforms, right? And I want to make a comment on that because it's an important, I think, inflection point that we've seen in the association market, certainly in the last 24 months, and in particular in the last, I'd say, 6 to 12 months, which is a real shift between who's picking out the tools now and the platforms and who's going to utilize them. And so much of the software and technology used to be relegated to the IT team, and they were expected to also not only procure it and to manage it, but also a lot of times to actually use it on behalf of other association staff. And we're finally at a point where we see many organizations say that's not sustainable. We need to have people on staff who can use the tool directly and not have to wait for someone else to do this, copy and paste and hit publish so it goes to a website, right? So we're really seeing a big shift there as the expectations for what all staff need to know the bar has really been changing, right? So it's not, there's not that much, there's no special skill set that you need to use blogs, right? You need to be able to write and you need to be able to type and hit, enter. And so that's a big difference, I think, is that idea that technology tools, software has been one group and everybody else can write on paper and send it in, I don't know, smoke signals, paper airplanes, post it on the, on the whiteboard in the break room. Those kind of days are over. And again, that's the next kind of generation of everybody's expected now to use tools, use software, and use them effectively. So why should blogs be any different? So you can rate yourself there on kind of technology adoption within the organization, right? Integration, that's a good one. Integration between blogging and your other systems is going to be important. Now, integration for associations as something that has been around for 15 plus years, about connecting your website to your association management system, to your email, to your online community, et cetera, et cetera. Blogs should be no different. Like I said, many blogs are just part of other systems, but where they're going for that is saying, hey, a good system has these things. You have a comprehensive digital marketing platform, or you've got the right marketing technology stack. And that means that you've got several tools that you can utilize together to understand the actual users. Okay, so most of us are somewhere in 2 and 3 land. Okay, because so many organizations they've integration is one of the first things they look to. As a matter of fact, oftentimes it's a key of why they came, like one of the key reasons that organizations come to HighRoad is because we're masters at being able to put these different systems together, right? And multiple systems. So we have a lot of different platforms we work with. That's not the issue. It's about, do you have somebody who knows how to apply the platforms to the problem at hand and have the data move between platforms so I can get more out of it, right? And you're only going to get that with an agency that specializes in multiple integrations and that type of data and marketing kind of finesse. So most of us are kind of in here. But integration is not new to associations by any means. Maybe from the blogging perspective, but even then I think not so much. And then analytics and capabilities, okay? So again, mentioning that blogs have all sorts of data capabilities in there in terms of measuring our users. We can measure, not only do we have opens and clicks and website visits, the 3 standards that most associations use all in one blogging platform, but we're able to really now get more predictive because we're able to understand what topics people are interested in. That gives us a whole nother layer of information where we can say, hey, this is a super hot topic. We've had 500 members that keep coming to this particular blog article and they keep sharing it, etc. What's going on with that? And we might not know the answer to that, but it begs the question and points out in real time, here's a topic that people are really interested in, right? So it's hot in some way and we need to understand, do we do more with that? Is that something we should be aware of, etc. So blogs are fantastic for helping us to get to number 4, being around, again, more predictive and getting more about being data-driven. Blogs can help us really quickly get to a whole different level of conversation that's around what people want. And we're moving from guessing to being data-driven, right? Here's what the number said. I know you said people want to, people are interested in this topic, but we keep putting it out there and nobody's clicking on the email and nobody's ever reading this article. The data's saying doesn't seem like the gut feeling of the VP is accurate, right? What have you. The board member says we have to do this. So you can put it out there, test the topic, and really get real-time feedback about what that looks like. All right. Okay, so finally, just in wrapping up, we're going to go through budget and staffing. We talked, I think, about this one on budget very much along the lines before, which is most people are right there. No budget's been allocated for blogging, or it's part of a different platform. And we need to work on that and expanding and getting a better digital marketing budget in place. And then roles and responsibilities, again, I think, again, we kind of looked at that under departmental alignment. So we're going to be a 4 if we really have the right proper staff hired and trained. And it could be volunteers too, right? So this is going to be people who really have something to say, understand our market, understand who we're writing for, etc. And the last piece would be taking that team and taking it to the next level of really getting those subject matter experts lined up to be able to provide that kind of value-added content. All right. Last piece of the tool is looking at metrics and reporting, and this is really saying, hey, how do we scale or how do we rate as an association about our use of blog in terms of metrics, right? Are we measuring? So you score yourself as a 1. If you're not measuring, again, all drop downs at all. Okay? And you come up to here as a 4 if you're really doing this at an enterprise level is what they're saying, and this is tied in, and I'm going to say specifically, it's tied into here, prospect customer level of engagement, right? You're really going to do well if you're seeing blogs as just another vehicle to be able to understand your actual members or constituents and bring that back in and do more with it. That's when you're going to score the highest. And reporting and planning is that you really have, again, really dashboarding KPI types of pieces. Okay, so let's say let's give ourselves 4 there, and we have got a bunch of numbers here. The last tab just pulls it all together. If we've gone through this exercise and we've really given the thought here, maybe changed some criteria, being able to do that, when we go to the scorecard, it's already all those numbers plugged in, carried over. It totaled up my score per category, right? And then what it's telling me is it's giving me then the average to say, here's where I actually rate overall in my maturity. Right? And I don't have to fill in any of these numbers. They're just computing from the tab prior. What's nice about that, it also gives you a little bit of this chart showing you kind of, if this appeals to you more than looking at a numbers version, you need a visual, you can say, okay, look, the closer we get where we want to be is on that outside line. Okay, and that's really easy to see. We have a small gap there, that's good for us. But over here, we have a very, we have a very long way to go between here to here. And so quickly it tells us, this is a nice way to be able to chart how far away you are from, you know, let's say from maturity or from the norm. It's a good way to just chart that out, especially popular with executives to see how you rate, all right? So that's a nice little way to look at your whole scorecard and use that Blogging Maturity Assessment Tool. Again, we're going to post that onto our landing page, and I have a couple other resources, kind of free downloads of ebooks and things like that, I think that are quite good on blogging and get you kind of going. But with that, we're at the top of the hour. I thank you very much for your time and look forward to any feedback. Again, I'm Suzanne Carowin. Please enjoy the rest of our programs at HighRoad University. Thanks.